Good evening, everyone. Today I'm going to be reading the Nicomachean Ethics, and I'm also going to be reading the Greek and the English. This is my goal, at least. I've done quite a few videos like this where I'll read English, I'll read in Greek, side by side, back and forth. And so for the present, I have a philosophy class that's demanding that I read books 1 and 2 this week, and then parts of 4 and 7 the next week, and some of, I think, 8 and 9. So instead of just reading it in English, like I could, just to keep my class happy and satisfied, I want to try to read the Greek. This is a good excuse for me to read the Greek. And frankly, if I don't read the Greek now, I don't know when I'll have another opportunity to sit down and read Aristotle's Nicomachean Ethics all the way through. So starting off with sort of my goal, it's going to be I like to try to read a section in English. The first chapter has 13 sections, so I'll read the whole section in English, read the whole section in Greek, and then the second whole section in Greek, English first, then Greek, and back and forth like that. That's going to be my goal. And if I can go through the entire Nicomachean Ethics in the next month, that would be cool. But I'm not actually sure how things are going to go. I think that it's possible that my college courses will get too overloaded and I'll just read whatever's mandatory. So starting off, the first 2 books are mandatory, part of the third, also some of the 4th, 7th, and 8th. So that's going to be the goal. And I don't have too much else to say besides that I'll be reading for probably several hours. And so I got my coffee here. I got some Fanta here. And I'll try to stay hydrated while I read Nicomachean Ethics. I have 2 translations of Nicomachean Ethics in English. One's by Martin Oswald, and the other one, I have no idea who it's by, but I'm going to read this one by Martin Oswald because this is what my professor recommends for the class. And without further ado, I will get started with Book 1, Section 1, called The Good as the Aim of Action. Every art or applied science, and every systematic investigation, and similarly, every action and choice, seem to aim at some good. The good, therefore, has been well defined as that which all things aim. But it is clear that there is a difference in the ends at which they aim. In some cases, the activity is not the end. In some is the end. In others, the end is some product beyond the activity. In cases where the end lies beyond the action, the product is naturally superior to the activity. Since there are many activities, arts, and sciences, the number of ends is correspondingly large. Of medicine, the end is health. Of shipbuilding, a vessel. Of strategy, victory, and of household management, wealth. In many instances, several such pursuits are grouped together under a single capacity. The art of bridge making, for example, and everything else pertaining to the equipment of a horse are grouped together under horsemanship. Horsemanship, in turn, along with every other military action, is grouped together under strategy. And other pursuits are grouped together under other capacities. In all these cases, the ends of the master sciences are preferable to the ends of the subordinate sciences, since the latter are pursued for the sake of the former. This is true whether the ends of the actions lie in the activities themselves or, as in the case of the disciplines just mentioned, in something beyond the activities. And thank you for whoever's in the chat. I see I got one comment saying, so much aura, and then, yeah, man, keep it up. So thank you for whoever the 2 people are in the chat. I have no clue who you guys are, but if you're not subscribed, please subscribe to my channel. I do this with a lot of classical material. And if you only understand the English, don't despair. You can keep me on and just tune out the Greek. But I like to do this because I'm a classics master student, and a lot of people boringly try to just read one sentence at a time and talk about all the grammar. I am using the church pronunciation of how Greek is spoken in church and throughout the Middle Ages in the monasteries, and I will be reading the entire section with the modern pronunciation, and it's actually an older medieval pronunciation of classical Greek. So without further ado, here is section 1 in classical Greek. Passa techni ke passa methodos, homios de praxiste ke proerisis agathou tinos ephiesta oki. The okalos apophinando tagathon, upan de fiete. The aphorada tis fenita ton telon. Tamengar isin energie. Ta the paraftas erga tina. On the isi teli tina para tas praxis. Entutis veltio pefite ton energion ta erga. Polon the praxion. Uson, ke technon, ke epistemon, pola gignita. Ke tateli. Yatrikis mengar igia naf pigikis the plion, strategikis the niki, economikis the plutos. Osa the si ton tioton, epomion tina vinamin, Katha peripotin epikin, kalinopiki. Chaos ale, ton epikon, organon, esin. Afti the ke passa polemiki praxis, epotin strategikin. Kataton of tone, the tropon, ali epheteras. And passes the tone archietic no signomi tone architectonicon teli per pandon estin eretotera tone ibafta two tone garcharin kakina the okata the aferi the uzen tas energias of tas Ina ta teli ton praxion. E parataftas alo ti. Ka thaper epi ton lekthioson epistemon. That is the end of the first section. My paragraph was not... yeah, it's kind of funny how it is. Okay, so I'm going to read the next in English one more time. Let me just look at the chat again. I have, bro, I just had my exam on this today. You could do something about your Greek, though. Keep improving. So it depends, Noah. I don't know if you are Greek or if you're a student of Greek. As far as reading ancient Greek, this is something that, as far as sight reading goes, even a friend of mine who's an Orthodox bishop has expressed, even when he was a priest, he technically made quite a few mistakes reading ancient Greek aloud. So this is something that most, even native Greeks, are not used to reading ancient Greek aloud. There is part of the classics degree in Greece where you hear Greek and have to transcribe what you hear from somebody who speaks it aloud. I'm not sure if there even is a sense of anybody having to speak Greek aloud. The only people I know who speak ancient Greek aloud like this are priests, and even the priests make a lot of mistakes. So definitely one of the reasons I'm doing this sight reading Aristotle is to try to improve on sight reading. If I say a prayer, for instance, I have those down memorized, and so it's a different story. This is all sight reading, no edits, just plain reading it all straight through. But thank you for watching, Noah. And if you are a student of Greek, I would encourage you to also practice sight reading like this. Even though you are going to make mistakes, it's very good to practice sight reading. So thank you very much. And I'm going to continue now with section 2, politics as the master science of the good. Now, if there exists an end in the realm of action, which we desire for its own sake, an end which determines all of our other desires. If, in other words, we do not make all our choices for the sake of something else, for in this way the process will go on infinitely, so that our desire would be futile and pointless. Then obviously this end will be the good, that is, the highest good. Will not the knowledge of this good consequently be very important to our lives? Would it not better equip us, like archers who have a target to aim at, to hit the proper mark? If so, we must try to comprehend in outline at least what this good is, and to which branch of knowledge or to which capacity it belongs. This good, one should think, belongs to the most sovereign and most comprehensive master science, and politics clearly fits this description. For it determines which sciences ought to exist in the states, what kind of sciences each group of citizens must learn, and what degree of proficiency each must attain. We observe further that the most honored capacities, such as strategy, household management, and oratory, are contained in politics. Since this science uses the rest of the sciences, and since moreover it legislates what people are to do and what they are not to do, its end seems to embrace the ends of the other sciences. Thus it follows that the end of politics is the good for man. For even if the good is the same for the individual and the state, the good of the state clearly is the greater and more perfect thing to attain and to safeguard. The attainment of the good for one man alone is, to be sure, a source of satisfaction. Yet to secure it for a nation and for states is better and more divine. In short, these are the aims of our investigation, which is, in a sense, an investigation of social and political matters. Again, this is book 1 of Aristotle's Nicomachean Ethics, section 1, and section 2 now, and then here we're going to do the same thing in Greek with section 2, starting with Ivi tetelos, esti to practicum, tractum, o the afto vulomatha, tala the atuto, ke mi ponda the eteron erumatha, proisi garuto, geis, apiron, osteina canin, ke matean tin orxin, vilonos, tut on tagathun ke to Ariston. Arun ke pros ton vion. Ignosis of two, megalin, echiropin. Ke katha per toxote, scopon econdes, malonan, tikani men to theondos. E the uto, pirateon, tipo ge perilavin, afto, tipot esti, ke tinos, ton epistemon, dinamion. Doxia thon, tis kyriotatis, ke malista, architectonikis. Tiafti that politiki fenite, tinas gar ina, creon ton epistemon entes policy ke pias acastus monthanin ke mecritinos avti vietasi. O Roman the ke tas endimotatas ton dinamion ipotaftin usas. Ion strategikin economikin rhetorikin. Chromenis that taftis tes lipes practicas ton epistemon. Ton epidenomothetusis the protein ketinon apechis the totaftis telos perieki on tatonalon. Osta tutanii tanthropinon agathon. Igar ke tafton esti eni ke poli. Mi zonge ke telioteron to tis polios fenite. Ke lavin ke sozin. Agapiton men gar ke eni mono kalion de ke theoteron ethni ke policine. Emen un methodos tuton fiata politici tisusa. And back to English now. We are on section 3 of Nicomachean Ethics, book 1, section 3. And thank you for whoever's watching. And feel free to keep messaging in the chat. If I see something in the chat, I will answer chat questions between sections and between languages. So thank you very much. 3. The limitations of ethics and politics. Our discussion will be adequate if it achieves clarity within the limits of the subject matter. For precision cannot be accepted in the treatment of all subjects alike, any more than it can be expected in all manufactured articles. Problems of what is noble and just, which politics examines, present so much variety and irregularity that some people believe that they exist only by convention and not by nature. The problem of the good, too, presents a similar kind of irregularity, because in many cases, good things bring harmful results. There are instances of men ruined by wealth and others by courage. Therefore, in a discussion of such subjects, which has to start from a basis of this kind, we must be satisfied to indicate the truth with a rough and general sketch. When the subject and the basis of a decision consists of matters that hold good only as a general rule, but not always, the conclusions reached must be of the same order. The various points that are made must be received in the same spirit. For a well-schooled man is one who searches for that degree of precision in each kind of study which the nature of the subject at hand admits. It is obviously just as foolish to accept arguments of probability from a mathematician as to demand strict demonstrations from an orator. Each man can judge competently the things he knows, and of these he is a good judge. Accordingly, a good judge in each particular field is one who has been trained in it, and a good judge in general, a man who has received an all-round schooling. For that reason, a young man is not equipped to be a student of politics, for he has no experience in the actions which life demands of him. And these actions form the basis and subject matter of the discussion. Moreover, since he follows his emotions, his study will be pointless and unprofitable. For the end of this kind of study is not knowledge but action. Whether he is young in years or immature in character makes no difference. For his deficiency is not a matter of time, but of living, and of pursuing all his interests under the influence of his emotions. Knowledge brings no benefit to this kind of person, just as it brings none to the morally weak. But those who regulate their desires and actions by a rational principle will greatly benefit from a knowledge of this subject. So much by way of a preface about the student, the limitations which have to be accepted, and the objective before us. That was section 3 of Nicomachean Ethics, and thank you for whoever's still watching. And we will jump to the Greek of section 3. Any questions can be asked in the chat or comments. Looks like I have 3 different people that have been typing in the chat. And as far as I know, I haven't recognized any names. So if you're not subscribed, feel free to subscribe. Thank you for listening. Legito zan ikonos. Ikatatin ipokipmanin elin via safithi. Togar akrives, uk omios and apisi, tis logis epizititaon. Osper uve en tis the miurgumenis tada kalakita dikea. Peri on ipolitiki scopita, polin aki diaphoron, ke planin, ostodokin nomo monon ina fisi e me, that me. Teen the tina planin aki, ke tagatha dia to police, police or police, my book has a little typo. I think it's police. Via to police simvanin. Vlavas apavton. Evi gartines apolondo via pluton. Eteri the Andrian. Agapiton un periti uton ke actiuton legondas pachilos ke tipo tag thes signometalithes and the niknista ke peritonos epitopoli ke actiuton legondas tiafta ke sim perenesta. Ton afton the tropon ke apothekista creon ekista ton legomenon. Pepe thev menu gar esti epi to suton ta krives epizitin. Kath ekiston genos. Evoson e to pragmatos physis epidigita. Paraplesion gar fenita mathematiku te pithano logundos apothekista. Ke rhetorikon apodixis apetin. Ekistos the krini kalos ginoski. Ke tuton esti agathos kritis. Ekistos man aura o pepe the manos aplos the o peripon pepe the manos. Theotis politikis uk esti ikios acroatis o neos. Aperos garton kataton vion proxion elogi the ek tuton ke perituton eti the tis pathesin akoluthitikos on matheos accusata ke anophilos epithi totelos estin ugnosin alla praxis. Ugnosis alla praxis. The afferi the then neos tin ilikian ethos ne oros ugor para ton chronon e ellipsis alla diato katapathosin ke diokin ekista. Tis gartiutis anonitos ignosis gignata. Kathapertis acratesin tis the catalogon tas orexis pumanis ke pratusi poliophiles on to perituton evena ke perimen acroatsu ke pos apodecteon ke t protithemetha perfremiasto tafta. And thank you again for whoever's still watching. We are now on section 4. Happiness is the good, but many views are held about it. To resume the discussion, since all knowledge and every choice is directed toward some good, let us discuss what is, in our view, the aim of politics, i.e., the highest good attainable by action. As far its name is concerned, most people would probably agree. For both the common run of people and cultivated men call it happiness, and understand by being happy the same as living well and doing well. But when it comes to defining what happiness is, they disagree, and the account given by the common run differs from that of the philosophers. The former say it is some clear and obvious good, such as pleasure, wealth, or honor. Some say it is one thing and others another. And often the very same person identifies it with different things at different times. When he is sick, he thinks it is health. And when he is poor, he thinks it is wealth. And when people are conscious of their ignorance, they admire those who talk over their heads in accents of greatness. Some thinkers used to believe that there exists over and above these many goods another good, good in itself and by itself, which also is the cause of good in all these things. An examination of all the different opinions would perhaps be a little pointless, and it is sufficient to concentrate on those which are most in evidence or which seem to make some sort of sense. Nor must we overlook the fact that arguments which proceed from fundamental principles are different from arguments that lead up to them. Plato, too, rightly recognized this as a problem and used to ask whether the discussion was proceeding from or leading up to fundamental principles. Just as in a race course, there is a difference between running from the judges to the far end of the track and running back again. Now we must start with the known. But this term has two connotations: what is known to us and what is known pure and simple. Therefore, we should start, perhaps, from what is known to us. For that reason, to be a competent student of what is right and just, and of politics generally, one must first have received a proper upbringing in moral conduct. The acceptance of a fact as a fact is the starting point. And if this is sufficiently clear, there will be no further need to ask why it is so. A man with this kind of background has or can easily acquire the foundation from which he must start. But if he neither has nor can acquire them, let him lend an ear to Hesiod's words. That man is all best who himself works out every problem. That man too is admirable who follows one who speaks well. He who cannot see the truth for himself, nor hearing it from others, store it away in his mind, that man is utterly useless. Okay, that is the end of section 4, which is called, again, Happiness is a Good, but many views are held about it. And so we will be looking at the Greek and reading that same section 4 before we move on to section 5. Let me grab my bookmark. And I'll keep reading. And I see there's somebody else in the chat too. Man's I 895. You have praying hands. If you're still the one watching, thank you for your comment. Not sure what the comment's referring to, but you can feel free to say more if you want. I will read section 4 in Greek, and if there's any more questions or anything in the chat, I will answer the chat after I'm done with the section. So feel free to comment as you wish. Legamen Thanavalondas epi the pasagnosis ke proerisis agathu tinos or egete. TSD ulegamen teen politikin a fiesta KT topondon acrotaton ton procton agathon. Anomati men un skedon epoton pleistone homologita. Tingar evdemonian K poly K E her ENS Lagusin to the ev zine, K to ev protein, tav tone, epolum vanusi, to ev the monin. Parida tis ev the monias, tiesti, fis vitusi, K omios e poli, tis sophis apoli thoasin. Emengarton and argon, TK phoneron, Eon ethonin, E Pluton, Etimine, Ali the Alo, Polakis, the K Oftos, Eteron, Nosisas, Mangarigias, Igion, Panomenos, the Pluton. Sinidotus the AFTs, Agnion, tus mega TKE pair of tus legondas, Thavmazosin. Any thondo parata pola, tavta gatha alo t kath of to ina. Okay, tutis, pasine t honesty, to ina agatha. Apasus men un exitazin tas doxas mete oteroni sosestin. Ika non the tas malista epi polazusas either cusus achin tinalogon. Milan thaneto the mas oti the aferusi e apoton archon logi. Ke epitas archas. Evgar ke Platon epori. Tuto ke aziti. Poteron apoton archon epitas archasastid eodos. Osperento stathio apoton athlotaton epitoperos anaplin. Arcteon mangar apoton gnorimon tav ta the vitos. Tamangari mean ta the aplos isos un imin ge arcteon. Apotoni mean gnorimon. The tis ethnicine ich the kathos ton peri colon ke the keon ke olos ton politikon akusomenon econos. Archigarto oti ke ituto fenito arcundos uzen prosdaisi to the oti. O the tiutos eki ilavi on arcas radios. Either mi zeteron eparchi tuton accusato to isiodu. Utos men pan aristosavtos pandonoisi estlos avka ki nososev pinon dipithite. os decamit avtos noe mi aluacuon enthimo valite os dav archi eosanier. And that is the end of section 4. And we saw that it ended in dactylic examiner, which was impressive. Okay, from Hesiod. Not so impressive if we quote Hesiod. Okay. So, starting now with section 5. And whoever's in the chat, I am curious. Just I see prayer hands. I don't know if you can elaborate on that. One person said, "You're the goat." Yeah, man, keep it up. So much era. And somebody says he's got an exam this today. You could do something about your Greek, though. Keep up improving. So, yeah, I actually did cover that question. And so, of course, classical Greek is very difficult. And so that is what I'm doing, trying to improve on reading classical Greek aloud. Very few people do this, and that is something I am attempting to get better at, reading classical Greek aloud. And if I read the English first, this is helpful for reading comprehension, and I would encourage anybody who's studying a foreign language, even if it's not Greek, to do what I'm doing. Read a section in English, read the same section in German or French or Italian or whatever other languages you're studying. This is a very good tool for comprehending larger paragraphs in another language. Section 5, various views on the highest good. But to return to the point from which we digressed. It is not unreasonable that men should derive their concept of the good and of happiness from the lives of which they lead. The common run of people and the most vulgar identify it with pleasure, and for that reason are satisfied with a life of enjoyment. For the most notable kinds of life are these: the life just mentioned, the political life, and the contemplative life. The common run of people, as we saw, betray their utter slavishness in their preference for a life suitable to cattle. But their views seem plausible because many people in high places share the feelings of Sardanapalus. Sardanapalus, the footnote says, Sardanapalus is the Hellenized name of the Assyrian king Ashurbanipal from 669 to 626 BC. Many stories about his sensual excesses were current in antiquity. End of footnote. Cultivated and active men, on the other hand, believe the good to be honor. For honor, one might say, is the end of the political life. But this is clearly too superficial for answer. For honor seems to depend on those who confer it rather than on him who receives it. Whereas our guess is that the good is a man's own possession, which cannot easily be taken away from him. Furthermore, men seem to pursue honor to assure themselves of their own worth. At any rate, they seek to be honored by sensible men and by those who know them, and they want to be honored on the basis of their virtue or excellence. Obviously, then, excellence, as far as they are concerned, is better than honor. One might perhaps even go so far as to consider excellence rather than honor as the end of political life. However, even excellence proves to be imperfect as an end. For a man might possibly possess it while asleep or while being inactive all his life, and while in addition undergoing the greatest suffering and misfortune. Nobody would call the life of such a man happy except for the sake of maintaining an argument. But enough of this. The subject has been sufficiently treated in our publications addressed to a wider audience. In the third place, there is the contemplative life, which we shall examine later on. As for the moneymaker, his life is led under some kind of constraint. Clearly, wealth is not the good which we are trying to find, for it is only useful, i.e., it is a means to something else. For it is only useful, i.e., it is a means to something else. Hence, one might rather regard the aforementioned objects as ends, since they are valued for their own sake, but even they prove not to be the good, although many words have been wasted to show that they are. Accordingly, we may dismiss them. That's the end of section 5 in English. We will read the same section in Greek before continuing on to section 6, which is Plato's view on the good, which is a bit longer. I'm looking at section 6, section 7, and section 8. No, section 8 is not too long. Some of these are going to be a little bit longer sections, and so I may cut this stream around halfway through the book. We'll see how I'm doing after I read, should be able to read 6, okay, but after that, we'll see. I might need to take a break halfway through and split this stream into first section of the book and then the second section of the first book, second section. I'm not sure how long it'll take me to do the full book. It might take 2 or 3 hours, so that's what I'm saying. Maybe we'll split it up. Okay. Section 5, Stinella Nikaglosa. Emis the Lagomen, Othen por exavimen, Togar agathon, ke tin evdemonian, uk alogos, ikasin, ekton vion ipolumvanin, emen poli, ke forticot tati, tin thonin, theo ke ton vion agapo, si ton apple lavsticon. Triscar sin malista, prucondas, otanin irimanos, ke o politikos, ke tritos o theoretikos. Emen un poli, pandalos anthropodhis, phenonda. Voskimaton vion pro erumeni tikanusi the logu theato polus ton entes exousias homeopathin sardhana palu. Either cariendas que practicitimin tugar politicu viu Skevon tuto telos. Thanata the epipole oteron ina tu zitumenu. Though Kigar and tis Timothi malonina ian to Timomeno. Tagathon the ikionti ke vis sapharaton ina monde vomitha. Eti the yikasi tin timin the okin ina pistevsosin av tos avtus agathus ina zitusi gun ipoton foron ton phronimon timasta ke par is ginoskunda ke apar arati Thilon un oti kataga tutus arati kriton taka the kemalon on tis telos tu politiku viu taftin polavi fanata the atelestera ke afti though kigar and thekasta ke kathavdin agonda tin aratin praktakin. diaviu ke prostutis kakapathin ke atikin ta megista. Tonda uto zonda udis on evemonisian. E mithasin via philaton ke perimen tuton alis e kanoscar ke antis ankiliis irite periton. Kritos the estin o theoretikos Hyperutin episkepsin entis epomenis pi isomatha. Oda crematistis vie os tis estin, ke o plutos dilonoti utosi tubenon agathon, crisimos guard ke alu carin, vi o malonta proteron, lecthenditeli, tis an ipolavi, viafta gar agapata, fanata thu the nika keti polylogi prosafta katavevli de taftamen un afiso. Okay, that's the end of section 6 in the first book of Nicomachean Ethics. I'm sorry, that was section 5. And now we're starting section 6, which is called Plato's View on the Good. And this was a little bit longer. We got 1, 2, 3, 4, about 5.5 pages, or 4 2/2 pages. So what I'm thinking is maybe I'll go ahead and read 6, and then I might take a little intermission, and we'll break the stream there. So we'll go ahead and that's what we'll do. I'll finish 6. And then I think that is going to be a good midway point to start. So thank you for whoever's continuing to watch. Feel free again to comment in the chat. I will check the chat every time I break between readings. And I can answer accordingly. Plato's view on the good. But perhaps we had better examine the universal good and face the problem of its meaning. Although such an inquiry is repugnant, since those who have introduced the doctrine of forms are dear to us. But in the interest of truth, one should perhaps think a man, especially if he's a philosopher, had better give up even theories that once were his own, and in fact must do so. Both are dear to us, but it is our sacred duty to honor truth more highly than friends. These proponents of this theory did not make forms out of those classes within which they recognized an order involving priority and posteriority. For that reason, they made no provision either for a form comprising all numbers. However, the term good is used in the categories of substance, of qualities, and of relatedness alike. But a thing as such, i.e. a substance, is by nature prior to a relation into which it can enter. Relatedness is, as it were, an offshoot or logical accident of substance. Consequently, there cannot be a form common to the good as such and the good as a relation. Secondly, the term good has as many meanings as the word is. It is used to describe substances, e.g., divinity and intelligence are good. Qualities, e.g., the virtues are good. Qualities or quantities are good, e.g., the proper amount of good. Relatedness, e.g., the useful is good. Time, e.g., the right moment is good. Place, e.g., a place to live is good, and so forth. It is clear, therefore, that the good cannot be something universal, common to all cases and single, for if it were, it would not be applicable in all categories, but only in one. Thirdly, since the things which are included under one form are the subject matter of a single science, there should be a single science dealing with all good things. But in actual fact, there are many sciences dealing with the goods and fall into a single category. To take, for example, the right moment in war, it is the proper concern of strategy, whereas in treating a disease, it is part of the study of medicine. Or to take the proper amount in food, it is the subject of medicine in physical training of gymnastics. One might even go further and raise the question what exactly they mean by a thing as such. For the self-same definition of man applies to both man as such and a particular man. For inasmuch as they refer to man, there will be no difference between the two. And if this is true, there will be no difference either between good as such and the good, since both are good. Nor indeed will the good as such be more of a good because it is everlasting. After all, whiteness, which lasts for a long time, is no wider than whiteness which lasts only for a day. The argument of the Pythagoreans on this point seems to be more convincing. They give unity a place in the column of goodness, and indeed even Speusippus seems to follow them, but more about this elsewhere. An objection might be raised against what we have said on the ground that the Platonic doctrine does not refer to every kind of good, and that only things which are pursued and loved for their own sake are called good by reference to one single form. That which produces good or somehow guarantees its permanence, the Platonists argue. The Platonists argue. For that which prevents the opposite of a good form from asserting itself is called good, because it is conducive to the intrinsically good and in a different sense. Now, the term good has obviously two different meanings. One, the things which are intrinsically good, and two, things which are good as being conducive to the intrinsically good. Let us therefore separate the intrinsically good things from the useful things and examine whether they are called good by reference to a single form. What sort of things could be called intrinsically good? Are they the goods that are pursued without regard to additional benefits, such as thought, sight, certain pleasures and honors? Or even if we pursue these also for the sake of something else, one would still classify them among things intrinsically good. Or if nothing good except the form of good, if that is the case, the form will be pointless. But if, on the contrary, thought, sight, etc., also belong to the group of intrinsically good, the same definition of good will have to be manifested in them all. Just as, for example, the definition of whiteness is the same in snow and in white paint, but in actual fact, the definitions of good, as manifested in honor, thought, and pleasure, are different and distinct. The good, therefore, is not some element common to all things as derived from one form. What then is the meaning of good in these different things? Surely it is not that they merely happen to have the same name. Do we call them good because they are derived from a single good, or because they all aim at a single good? Do we rather call them good by analogy, as sight is good in the body, so intelligence is also good in the soul, and so other things are good within their respective fields? But perhaps the subject should be dismissed for the present, because a detailed discussion of it belongs more properly to a different branch of philosophy, namely first philosophy. The same applies to the form of the good. For assuming that there is some single good which different things possess in common, or that there exists a good absolutely in itself and by itself, it evidently is something which cannot be realized in connection in action, cannot be realized in action or attained by man. But the good which we are now seeking must be attainable. Perhaps one may think that the recognition of the absolute good will be advantageous for the purpose of attaining and realizing in action the goods which can be attained and realized. By treating the absolute good as a pattern, they might argue, we shall gain again a better knowledge of what things are good for us, and once we know that, we can achieve them. This argument has, no doubt, some plausibility. However, it does not tally with the procedure of the sciences. For while all sciences aim at some good and seek to fulfill it, they leave the knowledge of the absolute good out of consideration. Yet, if this knowledge were such a great help, it would make no sense that all the craftsmen are ignorant of it and do not themselves attempt to seek it. One might also wonder what benefit a weaver or a carpenter might derive in the practice of his own art from a knowledge of the absolute good, or in what way a physician who has contemplated the form of good will become more of a physician, or a general more of a general. For actually a physician does not even examine health in this fashion. He examines the health of man, or perhaps better, the health of a particular man, for he practices this medicine on particular cases. So much for this. Okay, that is the end of section 6 in English from Nicomachean Ethics, book 1. Thank you for those who are watching. We will quickly run through this in Greek, and then I will end the stream for an intermission, and then hopefully within the next, short time, I will stream again and finish off the next half of the book 1, covering, that would be sections, I believe it's going to be 7 to 13. Okay. Okay, it's going to be 3 pages, so bear with me. Toda katholu veltion, isos epi skepsista, ke dia porisa post legata, ke per prosandus tis tiaftis tis seos ki nomenis Theatophilus andros is agagin taidi. Doxia van isos valtionina, ke vin episoteria, getis alithias ke ta ikia on erin. Alos te ke philosophus ondos. Fingar ondin feeling Oceon pro timon tin al lithian. Ithi komisandas tin doxan taftin uk piun ideas anis to proteron keisteron elegon. Theoper uthe ton orithmon idean kat eskevazon. To the agathon, legate, ke ento tst, ke ento po, ke ento prosti, to the kathofto, ke e usia proteron, t fiisi, tu prosti, hora fiadi, gar tut eike, ke sim vevi ki cote, tuondos. Osta uk an kinitis, epitutis idea. Eti the epitagathon isakos legate tuondi. Kagar ento T legate Eon othaos keonus. Ke ento pio e orate. Ke ento poso to metrion. Ke ento prostito crisimon. Ke en chrono keros. Ke entopo diete. Ke etera tiafta thilon os uk on kinon. T katholu. Kn. Ugar on legit en passus tes categorias al en miamoni. Eti the epiton kata mi an idean mia ke epistemi ke tonagathon pondon in an mia tis epistemi nin the isin pola ke ton ipo mian categorian eon keru en polemo mengar strategiki en noso the yatriki ke tu metriu en trophy men yatriki en ponis the gymnastiki. Aporisie than tis tipota ke vulunda legin afto ekaston iper en te afto anthropo ke en anthropo is ke aftos logos esti o to anthropo. Eger anthropos is then the isusin Thutos agathon alamin to athion ina malon agathon este. Eper mi the levkoteron to polychronion to ephemeru. Pithanoteron the aikasin Pythagoria legging perief 2 T thendus and T tone agathon sistikia to n istike spev sipos ep akaluthisa the key ala perimentuton alus esto logos tisa like thesin amphisviticine tis Epophaneta, diato mi peripondos agathu tus logus, eristha. Legasta the kath en ethos, ta kathafta theocomena, ke agapomena, ke ta pitika tuton phylactica, post ton en arandion, colitakia, Politica Viatafta legista, ke tropon alon. Thilon un oti the tos legiton tagatha, ke tamen kathafta, thatera the viatafta. Corisandas un apoton ophilimon, ta kath afta skab somatha. Elegata katab mian ivean. Kathafta the pia thei, tisan. Eosa ke monumena theokata. Eonto phronin ke oran ke ethonetines ke time. Taftagar eke theafto ti theokomen. Almost tone kathafthagathon thei tisan. Ethu alu then please tisideas. Plein tisideas. Osta mateon este toidos. The ke taft esti ton kathafta ton agathu logon, and opposine of tis ton of tone, emphenista theisi. Cadaper in Chioni, ke psim mithio, ton tis lev kotitos. Timiste ke Phroniseos, ke idonis, eteri ke diapherondas ilogi tafti e agatha. Uk estin ara to agathon kinon ti katamianithean. Allah posti legate. Ugareika tisge apotihis almonimis al arageto of enosina prosen apanta sintelin malon katonologian. Oscar en somati opsis enpsi hinus ke alo the en alo. Al isus tafta men apheteon tonin ex acrivun gar per afton alis an philosophias kitoteron omios the ke peritisideas igar ke estin en t tokini categorumenon agathon choriston of to t koth of to vilonos uk on procton udek titon anthropo nin the tiu ton tita taka the toloxion on veltion ignorizin of to prostaktita ke practica tonagathon. Iongar paradigma tut econos malon isomatha ke taimin agatha kan idomen. Epiteph somatha of tone. Pithanotita men un tina eki o logos eika thetes epistemes theophonin hasagar agathu tinos epiemena keto and the s epizichusa paralipusi tin gnosi of two Cativoimatha tilikuton tus technitas apandas agnoin ke mi the bizitin ugevlogon operon the ke ti ophilicite efantis etecton prostin of two technin those to of to tuto agathon post yatrikoteros strategikoteros ina otini than of teen te thea menos phenatamengar uthetin igian utos episcopine oiotros alatin anthropo malon the isos tin to the Cathecastone Garia Trevi, Ke Perimentuton, Epitosuton, Iristo. All right, that is the end of section 6. That is the end of section 6 in Nicomachean Ethics. And so I think that's a good place to stop for at least an intermission. And I will be able to do another stream with the next half of book 1 at another time. So thank you everybody for watching, and for the 4 people who are messaging in the chat. And I will see you guys next time. And if you're not subscribed, please do so. So put on your notifications so I will be able to notify you next time I'm on. So thank you guys, and till then, in proximum.